Well, as everybody heard, that was a great band, talented band. It's, stupid politics. That's how things go. So, after that, you did agree to return to Foreigner, but you were like making some terms. Yeah, like the dog just said, you're making your own terms. You wanted some creative equity in the band. You wanted to contribute. You wanted to rock again. And they did comply. I'm sure that, doing an album without you sent a huge message to those guys. It's like, no, we need Lou. But importantly, I also want to make the point that in addition to, musically, you told them you were no longer interested in the partying aspect of band life. No drinking for you, no drugs for you. Wisely, you didn't make that a rule for everybody. You just said, look, keep me out of that. You made it clear where you're coming from. And there again, you had some solo success and they needed to listen to you. I mean, as a Foreigner fan, I can say, yeah, I mean, listen to Lou. He's probably got the best, instincts of any of you. So they agreed to those terms. In 1994, Mr. Moonlight comes out, which could probably be considered the first quote unquote proper Foreigner album in 8 years. But unfortunately, you left Atlantic at that point, and I guess similar to Shadow King, but without the politics. The new label didn't really market the album effectively. And, you mentioned the radio landscape had changed. They were becoming less interested in promoting new material, even by an established band like Foreigner. They were more about playing it safe. They just wanted to play surefire, proven hits, so that was an uphill struggle. Speaking of struggle and shifting away from music, in the late 90s, you started to get splitting headaches, which turned out to be symptomatic of a massive brain tumor. Initially, you're told it was inoperable and you just needed to accept the fact, that you were done. It's all over for you, which is why everybody listening in medical matters always get a second opinion and a third and a fourth if necessary. My poor dad, had a similar thing. He was told by a doctor, this is all we can do. My dad went to Boston and got some treatment, but it was too little too late. And, I always regret that. So, but, timing is everything, because at the exact moment you needed it, you saw on an episode of 2020, here comes a guest who's a surgeon specializing in removing tumors with laser technology. And so you contact this guy, he immediately schedules your surgery. Now, I know you'd already become a Christian prior to your diagnosis. This wasn't a case of turning to religion in the face of a life and death crisis. Your faith was already in place and clearly played a role in your mindset. But one thing I've always wondered about, and having this chance to talk to you and read your book, that moment, I've always wondered how I would react to that moment when you're being prepped for surgery, which of course involves anesthesia, how you cope with the knowledge, that there's a very real possibility that you might never wake up again.
Well, I know that when they started the anesthesia, and I remember them wheeling me down the hallway to the room where they were going to do the surgery, I was deep in prayer, letting the Lord knew that I knew that it was in His hands, and that I would obviously accept anything that He wanted to happen. I just put it in His hands, and that's the last thing I remember.
Well, the surgery lasted 13 hours. Instead of cutting the tumor out with a scalpel, it was burned away with a laser. And, they got almost all of it, but there was a little bit left in an inaccessible area. So, you still had to undergo a month of radiation treatments. It took years to recover from all this, and I have to say, as much as I respect you as a musician and a performer, that pales in comparison to the respect I have for your determination not to surrender to the situation and to fight through it. My mind goes back to that gig in Lodi and the impression I had that you were this passionate guy who wasn't going to go down without a fight. A lot of people would have just given up after the first diagnosis, which kind of makes me mad because, it's up to doctors to keep up with the latest innovations in their field. I mean, the doctor should be the one telling you about the laser option. You shouldn't have to find out about it like randomly on TV.
Yep, I hear you.
Well, that happened in 1997, so you're coming up on the 20th anniversary of your survival of that surgery. Before the operation, you had 2 kids, and then after it, you had 2 more. So is 2020 their favorite show? Because it ought to be.
I don't think it is. I don't press the issue on that.
Well, if I'm them, 2020 is like, I'm going to, I guess it's not the kind of show you can like buy seasons of. It's like a news magazine, but yeah, I also have a degree of faith, and I've had moments in my life but seem a little bit more than serendipitous. Something happens at a particular time in a particular way that sort of implies there are other things in motion. And a person like you, who's been recognized by so many other people as having, a gift to offer, and I got to believe there's some divine intervention involved, not to diminish the surgeon's skill or anything, or your own will to live, but I think that the message there was the world isn't finished with you yet. I won't even say wasn't, it isn't, because you're still going. So in 2009, you released your third solo album, but this time around, instead of singing about, hot chicks, you honored the faith that pulled you through the trying events we've spoken about. It was still a hard rock album. It wasn't overtly Christian or too much of a departure from your established sound. I really like that album, and I want to give our listeners a taste of it. So from his 2009 Lou Gramm Band CD, here's a tasty little number called I Want to Testify.
Plain for everyone to see. Love walked in on me, and it took me by surprise. Happiness is all around me. You can even see it in my eyes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just want to testify what your love has done for me. I just want to testify what your love has done for me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It might be a mighty long way, a mighty long way, mighty long way. Once I was a hollow man in which a lonely heart did dwell. Then love came sneaking upon me and brought a light to an empty shell. Well, I've heard so many times before that love can be so bad. I just got to tell you now that it's the best love I ever had. Hey, hey, yeah. I just want to testify what your love has done for me. I just want to testify what your love has done for me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Precious, sure been precious to me. Precious, sure been precious to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just want to testify what your love has done for me. I just want to testify what your love has done for me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just want to testify what your love has done for me. Ooh, I just want to testify what your love has done for me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Testify. All right. A mighty long time. Ooh. Testify. Yeah. All right.
All right, well, that's a nice funky one. A lot of soul happening there, and your voice sounds great. And as we heard, the production on that album is as good as any Foreigner album. So encourage everyone to check that out. Also check out Lou's earlier solo albums we mentioned, Ready or Not and Long Hard Look. And there's Black Sheep. I mean, those albums you can stream them on YouTube, and they're awesome. They're good old 70s rock. And, returning to the book, I really enjoyed reading it because, as I mentioned at the beginning, your life doesn't begin and end with the Foreigner albums, the Sauce Sundays and the Rolling Stones concert. There's more, and the gig where you didn't know the songs and you just played anyways. There's a ton of that stuff in there about your life before the band, and anything anybody would want to know about during. And of course, you have more music in your future, and we'll keep tabs on that. Anytime you got a new album coming out, please come back and let's talk about it. And the main thing I want to communicate today, everybody, get this awesome book and read it, and see where it leads you. Well, Lou, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me about your music, your book, and your life. You've always been one of my favorite vocalists, so it's been an honor to speak with you today.
Thanks, Daniel. I enjoyed my time speaking with you too, and I want to thank Tom too, behind the controls. And I'm sure this is going to turn out wonderful.
I want to thank Lou's assistant, Lisa Zimmer, for her assistance arranging this interview. Thanks also to Lou's wife, Robin, for sending me an autographed copy of his book. And as Lou mentioned, thanks to Tom Bowers for engineering and editing the episode. I want to encourage everyone to visit Lou's website, lougramm.com. Also look him up on Facebook and Twitter. And again, the name of the book is Jukebox Hero, My 5 Decades in Rock and Roll. I hope everyone does read it, because there's a lot of great content we didn't get into, including the role of hot rods and drag racing in Lou's quote-unquote misspent youth. Well, we won't call it misspent.
I'm still misspending it.
So in honor of his automotive adventures, I thought we'd go out with a slightly deeper cut from Foreigner's Head Games album. If you're listening to this in the car right now, the next stoplight, you might want to consider revving on the red line in Lou's honor. Just watch out for motorcycle cops. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Drive safe, everybody.